The seventh episode of Stranger Things Season 4 is titled The Massacre at Hawkins Lab. The episode begins with Nancy, Robin, and Eddie arriving just in time to save Steve from the bats. They use paddles and anything else they can find to fight off the bats and free Steve. Although they manage to eliminate all the bats, Steve suffers significant injuries. As they catch their breath, they notice a swarm of bats rapidly approaching. They quickly run into the woods, seeking shelter under a large rock and some trees until the bats pass over. Afterward, Eddie asks if they are essentially in Hawkins, but with all the monsters and strange stuff. Robin confirms this, suggesting they could go to the Hawkins PD to steal some guns. However, Nancy points out they don't need to go that far because she has guns in her bedroom. Avoiding the creepy, crawly vines, they begin making their way to Nancy's place in the Upside Down. As the group in the Upside Down makes their way to Nancy's home, Dustin and Lucas try to contact them after being caught by the police. The cops take Dustin, Max, and Lucas to the Wheeler household, where their families have gathered. The officers begin questioning the kids, but their lies are so obvious that even Erica notices. Chief Powell decides to question them separately, taking Max into another room while Lucas and Dustin try to figure out why there's a gate at Lover's Lake, prompted by Erica's question. Dustin quickly deduces that just as Eleven opened the Mother Gate by establishing a psychic connection to the Demogorgon, Vecna might be creating a connection with its victims strong enough to tear the fabric of space and time. He theorizes that if the Demogorgon was a foot soldier for the Mind Flayer, Vecna must be a 5-star general, possessing the power to open gates to the Upside Down. Meanwhile, Nancy and the others enter Nancy's house in the Upside Down. Nancy goes to her room and looks for the shoebox where she kept her guns. To her surprise, the box is filled with old heels she discarded 2 years ago. She soon notices that her room's wallpaper is old and her diary is incomplete, with the last entry dated the day Will disappeared, 2 years ago. It quickly dawns on her that they are in the past. Robin, Nancy, and Eddie hear Steve causing a commotion downstairs, prompting them to quickly descend. Steve informs them that he can see Henderson speaking somewhere nearby. As they hush, everyone discerns Dustin's faint voice emanating from the room. Eddie proposes a brilliant idea. They should use the lights to communicate with Dustin, much like Will conveyed his messages to Joyce in the past. They soon notice a chandelier emitting a magical glow. Placing their hands into the light particles, which feel strangely ticklish and comforting, they consider if anyone knows Morse code. Unfortunately, no one does. However, Eddie suggests he can send an SOS signal. Employing his fist to blink the light in the real world, Eddie successfully transmits the SOS message to Dustin. It's Erica who first notices the signal and relays it to Dustin. Dustin swiftly deciphers the SOS, realizing that Nancy and the others have descended the Watergate. Dustin, Lucas, and Erica cobble together a makeshift communication device using a toy that emits light. With Nancy and the others already able to hear Dustin in the Upside Down, this provides a means for two-way communication. Nancy writes "Hi" on the toy's beads, successfully conveying the message. Dustin then informs them that there's a gate at every murder site that they can use to escape. Nancy turns to Eddie, asking how far his trailer is from her home. He replies it's about 7 miles away. Steve inquires if Nancy still has bikes at home. They all mount the bikes and start pedaling towards Eddie's trailer. Simultaneously, in the real world, Dustin, Lucas, Max, and Erica escape through the window and hop on their bikes, setting off in the same direction. Meanwhile, in Eleven's memory, Dr. Brenner attends to her concussion. He questions her about her attacker, but Eleven claims she doesn't remember anything. Gathering everyone in one room, Dr. Brenner addresses the group, asserting that such incidents don't just occur, they are the result of someone's actions. 4, barely able to contain his laughter, suggests sarcastically that Eleven must have simply fallen and injured herself. Enraged, Dr. Brenner orders an orderly to bring him a collar, which he then places around 4's neck. Inflicting electric shocks, Brenner interrogates 4, demanding the truth. 4 shrieks in anguish, denying Eleven's accusations and insisting they are lies. Later, the kind orderly sits Eleven down and tells her that once 4 gets out of the infirmary, he's going to kill her. He explains to a stunned Eleven that Brenner desires this outcome because he knows she is the most powerful among all the kids, and his obsession is maintaining control. Furthermore, he reveals that the cameras were deliberately turned off the day 4 attacked her, implying a cover-up from Brenner. The orderly confides that he has tried to help Eleven before but was caught, resulting in punishment from Brenner. Handing her his keycard, he urges Eleven to escape from this prison today, emphasizing the grave danger she faces if she stays. When Eleven questions his motive for helping her, he simply states that he believes in her. In the afternoon, around 3 p.m., Eleven informs an orderly that she's feeling dizzy and sensitive to the lights, so he escorts her to the infirmary. However, en route, Eleven manages to slip away from him. Using the kind orderly's keycard, she unlocks the exit door and descends into a room filled with machinery to rendezvous with him. He assists her by opening a trapdoor, granting her access to escape. Curious about his intentions, Eleven asks if he plans to join her. He reveals a tracking chip in his neck, dubbed Soteria, explaining that if he flees with her, Papa will track him down, leading him back to Eleven. In gratitude for his repeated assistance, Eleven offers to remove the chip to ensure his safety. This proposition sparks a hopeful gleam in the orderly's eyes. In Kamchatka, Joyce and Murray, the latter disguised as Yuri, arrive at the prison gates with the real Yuri and Joyce bound in the back of the van. Murray convincingly impersonates Yuri when they meet the warden. He queries the warden about the fate of the American held inside. The warden leads them to a balcony overlooking a scene where Hopper, Antonov, and others are about to be fed to the Demogorgon. As the gate to the Demogorgon's cage swings open, Antonov urges everyone to stick together and stand their ground. However, upon the monster's emergence, it embarks on a destructive rampage, devouring anything in its path. Hopper improvises a weapon by igniting his bottle of alcohol with a lighter he snagged from the guards. Hopper attempts to fend off the creature with his makeshift flaming weapon, while Antonov struggles to open the door, aiming to secure their escape route. Meanwhile, Murray and Joyce hold the warden hostage at gunpoint, demanding he order the guards to cease their actions. The warden refuses, expressing a preference for death over dishonor to his country. Similarly, a young guard controlling the prison doors stands firm against pressure, even when threatened by Hopper. Frustrated by the resistance, Murray subdues the warden and other guards in the room. Meanwhile, Joyce frantically presses buttons in an attempt to open the door. Eventually, she succeeds, allowing Hopper and Antonov to narrowly escape the Demogorgon's grasp. As Hopper turns to see Joyce running towards him, a deeply emotional moment unfolds. In what might be the most heartwarming scene of the season, Joyce and Hopper embrace, their relief palpable as Hopper smiles and lets out a sigh of relief. In the Upside Down, the group reaches Eddie's trailer and locates the gate to the real world positioned high up, precisely where Chrissy met her demise. A broom protrudes from the gate, manipulated by Dustin to open it for them. He lowers a makeshift rope crafted from sheets, enabling Robin to ascend first, followed by Eddie. However, a sudden twist occurs as Nancy becomes cursed by Vecna, while Steve attempts to revive her. Nancy finds herself transported to a vision where she stands beside a swimming pool, confronted by the decaying body of Barb. Vecna's voice echoes, accusing her of forgetting her actions, but declaring that he never forgets who he killed. In a startling revelation, Vecna discloses his true identity as Henry Creel, the son of Victor Creel. He reveals his past, detailing his misunderstood nature and the discovery of his powers. Henry recounts how his family failed to comprehend him, leading to a tragic sequence of events. He confesses to manipulating reality, resulting in the demise of his family. Furthermore, Henry reveals that his own mother recognized his malevolence and attempted to have him institutionalized. In response, he eliminated her and framed his father for the crimes. However, the strain of his actions led Henry into a coma, only to awaken under the custody of Dr. Martin Brenner, the one person he detested. Simultaneously, Eleven receives this narration from one within her memory. Subsequently, 11 uses her powers to remove the Soteria device from the orderly's neck and frees him as a result. They try to flee, but the guards at the lab find them. Taking 11's hand, the orderly leads the charge, but they soon find themselves cornered by guards from all directions. In a shocking turn of events, the kind orderly uses his telekinetic powers to fling the guards into the wall and break one's neck. He leads 11 into a room and tells her to wait there. When 11 asks her how he did that, he shows her his arm on which the numbers 001 are written, revealing that he's the infamous one that Papa's been trying to hide. As 11 steps outside, she's greeted by screams echoing from the vicinity. To her horror, she witnesses one, now revealed as Henry, ruthlessly slaughtering everyone in sight, with 2 as his next victim. Henry expounds on his belief that humans are mere pests, inferior to spiders who are superior predators. He attempts to persuade 11 to join him, citing their perceived similarities. 11 defiantly refuses and engages in combat. Despite her courage, Henry's superior age and power enable him to overpower her, hoisting her into the air. As 11's arms contort similarly to Chrissy and others before her, Henry prepares to deliver the fatal blow. In a pivotal moment, 11 delves deep into her memories, tapping into the sorrow and anger evoked by her mother's abduction by guards. With a mighty scream, she unleashes a surge of power, sending Henry hurtling into a nearby wall. Blood streaming from her eyes, 11 advances toward him, emitting another powerful scream. Using her abilities, she creates a portal to the Upside Down within Henry's body. Henry is violently thrust into the Upside Down as lightning strikes his form, causing him to gradually transform into a monstrous being, resembling a demogorgon with each strike. The scene transitions to the present, revealing Vecna, formerly Henry, now transformed into a hideous, monstrous figure. A vine protrudes from his arm, bearing the number 001 tattooed on his arm. This concludes the 7th episode of Stranger Things Season 4. The 8th episode of Stranger Things Season 4 is titled Papa. The episode begins with Nancy trying to escape from Vecna's clutches, while Steve shouts at the others to find some music in Eddie's trailer to save her. Desperately, Nancy runs into a door that has been barricaded. As she struggles to force it open, Vecna approaches, taunting her that it's not time for her to leave yet, and expressing his desire to show her what he plans to do. Overwhelmed with fear, Nancy manages to open the door and flee into another room. There, Vecna, disguised as Dr. Brenner, tells her to take a seat and then uses his powers to tie her down. He shows Nancy a vision of Hawkins being destroyed by monsters and instructs her to relay everything she has seen to 11. Finally, Vecna lifts his curse, and Nancy's physical body in the real world comes back to life. Meanwhile, 11 wakes up from her memory in a highly unstable condition, with her vitals all over the place. Owens and Brenner rush to stabilize her. Remarkably, 11 recovers quickly and demonstrates an unprecedented display of power by lifting the large tank she was just in, raising it high into the air before gently setting it back in place without breaking a sweat. Amazed by this feat, Owens and Brenner begin updating her on the situation. Brenner explains that the day she condemned Henry to the Upside Down was unlike anything he had ever seen before. However, when 11 woke up the next morning, she didn't remember any of it, prompting Brenner to work on rekindling her powers. He reveals that he always knew Henry wasn't dead, suspecting he was hiding in the darkness. This drove Brenner to repeatedly venture into the Upside Down in search of him. Brenner then warns 11 that her friends are in grave danger, and if she doesn't act quickly, Hawkins will fall. He explains that Vecna is creating a crack in the barrier between the Upside Down and the real world with each victim he claims. Afterward, Nancy shares with the crew everything she saw in the future that Vecna showed her. She describes a large cloud and monsters destroying Hawkins, and she also saw 4 gates. Max quickly points out that Vecna's clock always had 4 chimes as well. They all realize that if Vecna completes his 4th kill, the barrier between Hawkins and the Upside Down will collapse, unleashing havoc on Hawkins. Dustin theorizes that when Vecna attacks his 4th victim, his physical body will be defenseless in the attic of the Creel house in the Upside Down. they devise a plan to strike and kill Vecna when he makes his next move. Robin expresses concern, noting they don't even know who Vecna will target next. In a moment of sheer bravery, Max volunteers, saying she's still marked by Vecna, and if she ditches Kate Bush, Vecna will come for her again. She believes that since she survived once, she can survive again. The group decides to visit a shop just outside Hawkins that sells explosives to prepare for their battle against Vecna. While there, Nancy unexpectedly encounters Jason and his team, who are still hunting for Eddie and other Hellfire members. Jason approaches Nancy as she buys a shotgun, grabs it, and forcefully questions her about the whereabouts of Mike and his friends, suspecting they might be with her. Nancy angrily tells him to let go. Sensing the escalating tension, she and the others quickly leave the store to avoid any complications. They rush to the van, and Nancy yells at Steve to drive. Steve and the rest of the group swiftly and safely get out of there. Back in Nevada, Eleven decides she wants to leave the Nina facility to fight one and save her friends. Owens fully supports her decision, but Brenner strongly opposes it, insisting she must complete the program or risk dying in the fight against one. When Eleven refuses to comply, Brenner's soldiers take over the facility, detain Owens, and start beating him. Eleven then proceeds to confront Brenner, recalling that he told her that one was still hiding in the darkness. She questions whether his obsession with finding one was the reason he kept sending her into the darkness. She accuses him of causing many deaths due to his inability to let go of one. Eleven declares that she came to the facility to determine if she was the monster, but realizes that Brenner is the true monster. She threatens to break down the door and leave, warning Brenner that she will kill him if he tries to stop her. As Eleven breaks down the door, Brenner injects her with a sedative. She tries to hurt him but passes out before she can. When Eleven wakes up, she is drowsy and finds an electrical collar around her neck, preventing her from running or using her powers. Meanwhile, Colonel Sullivan forces the agent they were torturing to reveal Eleven's location. Sullivan and his men arrive at the facility, breaking down the outside door with explosives and barging in. The soldiers gun down the MPs guarding the facility as staff and doctors attempt to flee. Brenner carries Eleven in his arms and escapes through the back door. However, once outside, he sees that the staff who exited before him have already been shot by a helicopter overhead. The soldier in the helicopter fires at Brenner, gravely injuring him. Inside the facility, Sullivan finds Dr. Owens handcuffed and demands to know where Eleven is. Simultaneously, the soldier in the helicopter informs Sullivan that he has eyes on the girl. Owens pleads with Sullivan not to take Eleven, arguing that if she's not the one responsible for the killings, they will need her help. Sullivan, ignoring Owens' warnings, orders his men to take Eleven out. Meanwhile, Mike, Jonathan, and the others, who obtained Eleven's coordinates from Susie, arrive just in time to create a much-needed distraction for her. In an astonishing display of power, Eleven, despite the collar around her neck, makes the helicopter swirl through the air as it fires at her. She ultimately brings the helicopter crashing down onto the military vehicles, causing a massive explosion. Mike rushes out of the van and embraces Eleven, who is incredibly relieved to see him. As Brenner nears death, he disables the collar around Eleven's neck. She approaches him, and he tells her that he is incredibly proud of her, and that she is his family. He insists that everything he did was for her, pleading, "Please tell me you understand," and begging for her forgiveness. Tears streaming down her cheeks, Eleven gently puts Brenner's hand down and simply says, "Goodbye, Papa." She then drives off in the van as Brenner takes his last breath and dies. Back in Hawkins, the group, fully prepared for their showdown with Vecna, ride towards their respective destinations. Nerves are evident, each member looking visibly nervous yet determined. Steve and Nancy drop off Max, Lucas, and Erica at the Creel house. Led by Max, who appears determined as ever, they enter with Max ready to serve as bait so that the others have a chance at killing Vecna, while Eleven and the rest of the group head towards Hawkins. This concludes the 8th episode of Stranger Things Season 4.